Hi, everybody. It's Patricia Coughlin. I've been thinking a lot about this issue of recognizing and working with positive feelings as they come up in the therapeutic process. And it really zeroes in on the issue of love. Did you know that Freud, in writing to Jung, said psychoanalysis is a cure through love? Rilke said, love is the essential reality and our meaning on earth. Meaning does not exist in things, it exists in us. And he also said that love is the final test and proof, the work for which all other work is but preparation. And isn't that the case for all of us, and also the ultimate goal in our psychotherapies? I think it was said really well by a young resident who took a 10-week course that I was offering in brief dynamic psychotherapy. We were, of course, going over the two triangles and then talking about the feelings and impulses that exist there on the bottom of the triangle of conflict. And really what Davenlu was talking about were the attachment affects that were wired for love and loving connection with others. And of course this never goes smoothly, and we're often hurt in love. And so there's pain and grief, and then reactive anger and rage. And because we're often enraged with the same people we love, it also gives rise to guilt. And if there aren't healthy ways to experience and express all these feelings, defenses get built around this entire system. So that's what I was talking about to this class. And then this young resident raised her hand and she said, now this may be grossly oversimplified, but are you saying that our task is to help the patient, get through all those defenses so they can experience the reactive feelings of pain and rage to enable them to reconnect to their ability to love and be loved? And I said, that's it. Right? In some way, simple, but not easy. And yet we so rarely talk about love in this process of therapy. Love that we have for our patients and that they have for us. We seem squeamish about this and like to call it things like empathy and alliance. But I've been very moved by cases in which love became quite prominent and therapeutic. I'm thinking about a woman, a Chinese immigrant, who came to see me at the age of 60 because even though she seemed to have everything you're supposed to want in life, she felt there was something wrong with her heart, and she knew she was not free to love. In fact, when the man she had been living with for 25 years would express his love and ask her to marry him, she would get angry and push him away. Why should I marry you? And things like this. And she said, why in the world would I react in such a way? She really didn't understand this at all. And so, just as the resident said, we had to, first of all, dismantle her defenses against her own intense feelings of pain and rage about an extremely traumatic childhood, and also to be looking at and to helping her give up defenses against emotional closeness, including with me. And while the big wall had been dismantled really very early on, there was a certain way in which I felt her keeping me at a certain distance. she was extremely eloquent, but she could use words to keep me away. It was almost as if I wasn't necessary. There was a session in which she would ask herself a question, then answer the question, and jokingly I said, I can just get up and, go off for a coffee, come back later, doesn't seem like you need me for anything. And she laughed but recognized the truth in this. And she was able to say, yes, it's as if there's still a thin veil between us, like the dew on the morning grass. And she also came to realize that her words were often a way to keep a deep level of closeness away. So I suggested that we just sit quietly and not say anything. And so for 3 or 4 minutes, we just sat gazing at one another. And tears just poured down her cheeks, and my eyes certainly welled up. It was extremely moving. And I don't think either one of us really said much of anything at the end. But she came back the next session and talked about the profound effect this had had on her. And she said, I can only call it love. She said, I'll speak for myself. I felt incredible love for you, and I could also feel your love for me. And she followed that up by saying, I never imagined love would come into it. She had been in many other therapies, including a 10-year Jungian analysis, but they had never really made close emotional contact. And following this experience with me, she was able to facilitate this closeness with her partner and with her friends. And it was just really almost beyond words. For her, certainly, love was the last test and proof, and the work for which all other work had been preparation. I'm thinking about another case of a woman who, if you looked her up on the DSM, clicked, checked every box for borderline personality disorder, had been hospitalized a number of times since her late teens, acted out a lot, had chaotic relationships. But she came to me in a crisis, and we were able to really facilitate deep transformational work in quite a brief amount of time, really surprising. And I believe it was in the last session, she came in talking about all the remarkable changes that she had experienced both internally and then in her life. And apparently, I wasn't aware of it, but I was just beaming at her. And I was focusing on how she seemed to be beaming. But anyway, in the middle of the session, she said, tearfully, she said, when I saw you light up like that and look at me, again, with love, she said, I suddenly remembered seeing that look on my father's face when he would sit and just watch my siblings and me, even as adults, just connect with each other. And she said, I'm so grateful to have revived that memory, because she had been told, literally told, in these inpatient settings that because she was a substance abuser and a borderline, that she had to have been sexually abused by her father. So even though she didn't remember it, surely this had happened. And she's not making this up, because this really did happen in the United States in the 80s. It was just horrible. And while she had never bought it, and because she had no memory of it, and she did say, there was certain kind of emotional incest and boundaries weren't great. There's absolutely no evidence and no memories that her father actually sexually violated her. And so to be able to remember, right, and have literally that transfer of images from me to her father, which we so often see when we're going for rage and pain in those breakthroughs, but I had never seen it so clearly in relation to loving feelings, and yet how crucially important that was. So I hope that talking about this, reflecting on the importance of love in this work. I mean, I really feel that if you're not coming from love, from a deep sort of agape love, deep concern for the welfare of the other, and you're there just to, be a technician or help people manage their symptoms or something, you're just not going to get the same kinds of transformational change you can get when you're coming from love and concern, and you focus on the patient's ability to love and be loved. And of course, this requires that we have that capacity, that we are open-hearted. So I would love to hear about your experiences and look forward to reading your comments. Thank you.